Starting the week this morning with us as we review the newspapers is public affairs analyst Dotun Ojon. Good morning. Thank you for lighting our studio with the sunshine that you brought in this bright orange.
Yes, very bright and lovely, like a diamond.
I love the fact that you love it. I'm a man of color. I like to just...
and it takes brave men to...
Yeah, it does.
I look forward to seeing more men wearing colors.
It's an expression of courage. And
I love it.
As long as you're not courageous, you will not be able to display your colors. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with this day newspaper and see what the front pages are saying. Alarming level of out-of-school children worry experts. Over 20 million estimated. Educationists urge federal government states to establish more schools as way out of menace. Now, Calabar stands still as Unical honors Wike with doctorate degree in law. Congratulations to the FCT Minister.
FCT Minister is now Dr. Nyesom Wike.
Yes, and it's not just him.
Effective as from now on.
Yes, not just him. They also gave Akpabio's wife and some other people the doctorate of law.
Unical is just dishing out. Do you want a law?
A law doctorate.
You can
I'll throw shade about honorary doctorate degree later, but let's go through the because I just feel like now everybody and their mummies are getting honorary doctorate.
So why did they give Wike in the first place?
Well, I think it's for his contribution to the Nigerian judiciary and for the first lady of the Senate President's wife, her support for women, her contribution to women. Look at the irony.
Yeah, Mr. Wike did commission judges' quarters in Abuja, so I guess it's part of...
and I'm sure Dotun would have thoughts on that, but let me finish running through the papers. SEC vows to fish out capital market violators. Consumers' Rights Group tackles multi-choice over discriminatory pricing against Nigerian subscribers. And that's all on This Nigeria. Let's go to Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. 2027 hurdles mount as coalition leaders move to unveil mega party. We also have at the front page there, Onoyekan, to political leaders, check your abuse of powers. Let's hope they're listening. And assets of top 10 banks surged to record 219 trillion naira in 9 months as the CBN governor. Still on the front page of the Tribune newspapers, KGB allegations, I will honor police invitation, says Senator Karimi. Serap sues Tinubu over unlawful suspension of Fubara and Rivers lawmakers. I mean, trust Serap to do that. OBJ laments failure of Ojon Dam to generate power after 48 years. And job loss looms as Apapa port barge operations decline. An NDLEA intercepts Indian lady with 72 parcels of heroin and chocolate.
Wow. So another reminder that you should be careful when you're receiving things on behalf of people. Final paper, Daily Trust. Rivers emergency rule, no quorum in Senate, Tambuwal orders say. Jonathan Shoyinka Wabara fault proclamation. Serap sues president, action taken to avert chaos, says presidency. Bandits kill 10 community guards and vigilantes in Zamfara. Abducted naval officer, 2 others rescued in Nasarawa forest. Pupils sit on bare floor, teachers on window in Abuja school. What a shame. Another explosion at gas facility in Rivers, even though this has been subject to controversy. Tinubu, Buhari, Barau governors mourn as Katsina governor's mother is buried. We are threatened with beheading for plucking mangoes, according to Borno students. Sanusi Bayero plan rival Salah Durbar in Kano. That's all.
Is that not a good thing? I mean, if you go to the Durbar that is closest to you, two for the price of one.
Okay, I'm trying to see which story we should start with. But let's talk about the unveiling of the mega party.
Yes.
Hurdles mount as coalition, leaders move to unveil mega party. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
One of the things I respect the sitting president of Nigeria for is for his ability to make sacrifice where necessary, political sacrifice where necessary. One of the things that he did when they were trying to form the APC in 2014 was the fact that he wanted to actually be the vice president. But there was also another faction of the PDP And the NPDP were looking at the fact that if they had a Muslim ticket, there will not be place for their leader, who was Bukola Saraki, to be the Senate president. But the sitting president was able to make the sacrifice of, okay, let me bring somebody who will be the vice president, a Christian who will be the vice president, so that whatever conversation we were having at that point could pull through. The problem we're having presently, what we're having presently is a direct opposite of that. One, there's no rallying point. The majority of people you're seeing today that are coming together, and of course we know that the meeting of politics is also a meeting of what's it called? Of interest. Thank you, of interest. So as we're having it today, apart from the fact that there's no rallying point, there's also the skepticism as to whether the people are willing to sacrifice their ambition to allow the need for a mega party to pull through. As we are today now, and I'm sorry, I have to quickly apologize to perhaps the major opposition in Nigeria, which is the People's Democratic Party. It is looking as if that People's Democratic Party is dying. That's my own opinion, though, because you will have seen with the way, it's like for this long, PDP has no use to the art of opposition. So as it is today now, we have to rely on those political parties that you call small party to be able to lead an opposition. So if we are coming up with a mega political party, it's a suitable idea for the moment. Because one of the things that I feared, a man who knows politics well, one of the mistakes such people make is to do this winner takes it all, and they silence every other voice of opposition. And that's my fear about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Unfortunately so, the people that we have seen today that are coming together to say that, oh, they want to form a mega party, if we check their interest, you see that one of them wants to be president, the other wants to be vice president, the other wants to be this and that.
Are they putting forward the good of the party or the good of Nigerians as opposed to their personal interest?
No, I think it's about personal interest, though the personal interest may actually come across, because what did Buhari actually bring to the table? It was also the interest that I want to be president.
Yes.
But the interest came at the right time, that Nigerians were looking out for another voice. Nigerians were looking out for a situation that will bail them out of situation. And whether the situation bail them out of the situation then is a different thing entirely. Unfortunately, we're at a point now. I mean,
are we not at the same point? Nigerians are, and if you go through, if you do a general vox pop of people, are they satisfied with the government? Are they satisfied with the state of the economy? Even though it's 2 years to elections, a lot can change in 2 years. But if we have elections today, don't you think majority of Nigerians will say, look, we want somebody else to rule us?
Yeah. So the difference between 2014 and what we have now, and in reality, I think the situation has become tougher for the Nigerian people. The pocket has become drier. And the reality of the economy has become one that we have not experienced since after the structural adjustment program of 1986. So it's a tense situation. Unfortunately, imagine if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu had decamped to PDP in 2014. Imagine if Buhari had decamped to PDP in 2014. There will not be people to offer this kind of opposition. What we have now is that the majority of our people who are maybe credible enough or who have the following, who have the connection and the contact, are decamping in drove to APC, either directly or indirectly. They are either belonging to the party or doing the bidding of the party. But of course, we cannot just continue to throw...
By indirectly, are you shading the FCT minister?
No. The word is not shading. It's strategic on the part of the people in power. What's strategy in politics? Pick the people who have head, quote unquote, among them. Make them fall in love with you. And by extension, you have killed them. Is it not worrisome that up to today, PDP cannot muster the courage to suspend the FCT minister? They cannot. They cannot.
Yeah, but let's be... don't you think these opposition parties, it's still early days, that are coming together, are being pragmatic and practical in the sense that, look, they feel the only way to defeat APC, because democracy is a game of numbers, is to, forget all our personal differences and we might be referred to as strange bedfellows, but let's come together. Let's form that force, that number, and that's what APC did by merging the CPC and the ACN to form APC in 2014. Is that not the same thing these guys are trying to achieve with this mega party?
Okay, so let me throw a very simple question. And let's be a bit mathematical. In 2023, we saw that Atiku Abubakar gave fight, a reasonable fight. In 2023, we saw that Peter Obi gave a reasonable fight. But when you want to do the calculation, reasonably, it's not a constitutional, it's an unwritten law. We know that the power now is still in the South. So in your head, you are thinking that if we have a Southerner who gave a fight in 2023, if they bring him back under a mega umbrella, then maybe things going to happen. But politicians are not thinking the way you are thinking.
How do you know?
I know, because you cannot tell an Atiku Abubakar now not to contest in 2027.
I mean, looking at his age is not really on his side, and he might want to defer to Mr. Peter Obi and, back him up for 2027.
I don't want to speak with utmost.
I mean, since they came together in a press conference to say they are forming a mega party,
I don't want to speak
they might have resolved. And I'm not speaking with all confidence.
Yeah.
But it's a possibility, since we are dealing in the realm of possibility.
Okay, so everything is about possibility. And how do you arrive at possibility? You look at your history. Since 1993, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has featured prominently in all the elections in Nigeria. And the greatest sacrifice we have to make now is what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu made in 2014. If they are going to see the light of day, it's about stepping backward. He's not going to, he's still looking very healthy.
Very fit.
Very fit. So the best thing he can do now is to step backward and allow somebody from the South who has perhaps the acceptance, quote unquote. For example, I have said it repeatedly, I'm not a fan of Obi.
Maybe not.
But as it is today, he seems to have the contact and the ability to be able to push whatever narrative that the people want to hear.
Right. Okay, we'll come back to it. We have some more time to talk about that. We'll come back to it, but I want us to move to another story. Let's talk about the out-of-school children. The Thisday Nigeria paper reports that there's an estimated 20 million out-of-school children. Also, there was another paper, I think it was Daily Trust then reports, pupils sit on bare floor, teachers on windows in Abuja school. Are we really placing any premium on education? They are suggesting here that we need to establish more schools out of the, as a way out of this madness. And I know that you're very particular about education. So talk to us about your thoughts regarding where we are and really if there's any hope, because some years back, I know we kept saying 10 million. From 10 million, we moved to 13.5. From 13.5, now we're at 20 million. In another few years, if we don't take, take any drastic measures, we're going to be looking at 25 million. So how did we get here? How can we get out of where we are? Okay, so
I think our education philosophy is a bit faulty. And I started a program called Leadership for Students that I was going from school to school. And anytime I get back to my hotel, I always end my day with tears. And practically, because you just can't tell where the people are going from, how you interact with them in school. Not everybody will have the resource to send their kids to private school. And in fact, there's even a big question mark as to what the quality of private school. I see some of the Bs, 200,000, 300,000, and I get to teach their student leadership. And I'm seeing a huge gap between what the parents are paying and the reality of what the students are getting. So there's a general capacity collapse in our education system in Nigeria. And building more schools is not going to solve it. The first thing that will solve is for us to sit down and say, okay, what do we want to achieve with our education? If somebody goes through primary school, at the end of 6 years, where do we expect the person to be? Do we expect that if the person has a primary education and goes to learn maybe tailoring and all, that he will be able to present his case reasonably and acceptably? So first is to have an education focus, that this is where we want anybody that goes through our school system to be at the end of the day. Because we are molding, education is to mold destiny of people. And once it is faulty from the very genesis, it becomes practically impossible for you to do anything. As we speak now, there's no state in Nigeria. I say it again to you. I have been to 6 states teaching leadership, and there's no one state that I've been across the geopolitical zone that we don't have a situation of people sitting on window. There's no state I have been that we don't have shortage of chairs in the class. There's no state I have been that we don't have 1 or 2 schools where there are shortages of staff. So it's a general problem. And when you continue to complicate the issue by building more schools, you discover that you are not going to get out of it. First, the one we have. We must get to a point where government will sit and say, For this year, I am concentrating on education. Beyond the 27% budgetary allocation that the United Nations had called for, I am giving 40%. Let us encourage our people to come back to school. Then from there, when we encourage the community, when the class is better than the house, there's an encouragement for people to come. But when the class is worse than the house or the home, then there's a problem. In my community today, people live in dilapidated buildings, but their classes are even worse than the buildings they are coming from. So how do you want to encourage them to come? If I am facing heat in my house, and these are little things that people don't pay attention to. If I am under the attack, quote unquote, of heat in my house, and I know that if I come to school, I'm going to have a ceiling fan above my head, it's enough encouragement. You remember the school feeding program?
Yes.
The philosophy behind it is that if I am hungry in the house, I have hope at the end of the day that when I get to school, that I'm going to be fed. But do you know what happened to it? People stole the money. They will break small bread as if they want to break communion. Small bread like this, small loaf. They put steel inside. Those were what they were giving to the people. So there's the need for us to rejig our education system, to rejig our education philosophy, to rejig our education focus, and to rejig, at the end of the day, our educational syllabi.
Wow. I mean, too many things that need to be done for our education and even our culture. We talk about the Almajiri, for example, the Almajiri system in the north and how it may have impeded education, our cultural beliefs, and how there's so much that we need to, so many barriers we need to pull down. We had Dambello on our show sometime last week. Friday. And we talked about the fact that even with all that has been done, I don't know if you saw the video of the school he refurbished, and he said he did it with just 4 million naira. So imagine what he used 4 million naira, what he achieved in one school with 4 million naira. How much more we could have achieved?
Yes, there's from the very beginning, anything that has to do with government, there's a system, because I was one of the people who said there's no system in government. But later on I discovered that there was a system in government to stop development. So there's actually a system in government. For instance, we keep having this idea that if something belongs to government, it has to be more expensive. When I came into Lagos, and this is a very sad story, I said that I was not going to get an accommodation for myself. I'm not going to build a house or buy a house in Lagos until I build a school. So the community I went into, I wrote to the state government, Johnny Ambode, and that was one of the reasons why I was a bit very passionate about whatever that went wrong in the government. I wrote to the government and I said, I am building this school. Initially, I didn't have money to build the school. I wanted to refurbish it. They said they were going to send their engineers to come and check. So they sent engineers to come and said, they told me that they built the school in 1976, that as a result of that, it has failed the test of whatever it is. So I went back to them and I said that, okay, since you said we cannot refurbish this, let's build something small. So I told them that this is what I wanted to do. They wrote back to me and said that no, that there's a standard. It has to be 3 classrooms. And I only had money to build 2 classrooms. Cut the long story short, at the point people were demanding money from me.
To do good.
To do good. I tell you this.
See when you want to
people
do a
were demanding, because in their head they were thinking, and it's very sad though, this thing we are just talking, in their head they were asking, where did you get the money? They thought somebody was actually giving money from the back. I said, no. It's my money. I just entered this community and I saw the situation and I told myself, I made a promise that I'm not going to build a house in this community until I build school. They frustrated it.
There are security implications to this, and it's a mess. If you drive around Lagos, the Lekki-Epe corridor, you see children that should be in school begging.
Freedom Way.
We've almost desensitized ourselves from it. There's no sense of urgency. Everybody's talking 2027. It's not a priority. And these children will, I mean, the environment is dangerous. They learn vices. They pick up all sorts of evils from society.
And they are also exposed to the risk of being hit, risk of being abused.
Yes.
So
why does it seem there's no sense of it? And I'm talking of an urban state like Lagos.
Imagine what's happening somewhere. Now, the most disheartening part of the whole thing is that those kids you see, 90%, I just want to be conservative with figure. I would have said 99% of them are on drugs. I saw them myself. I interacted with them. The money they are begging, major chunk of the money goes into feeding themselves, getting drug somehow. And they say that the street is no longer smiling. So it's not a place to leave our kids if we are building something reasonable for the future. And I want to say to the government cannot solve every problem. The essence of governance is to identify priority. One of the reasons why we keep going back and forth is that a government comes and say, I want to fix road, I want to do electricity, I want to do it, I want to do education. At the end of the day, they do nothing. Because the more allocation you allocate to several sectors, the more opportunity you have created for people to steal money. People steal money heavily. But if you concentrate your fund on, oh, I'm tackling these two sectors, education and electricity. If anybody comes after me, let them take the other one.
Then please, can we focus on governance also, like just the issues? It's shocking. This is not halfway through 2027 election.
Yes.
Right? And
everything is about...
If somebody wakes up from the dead and listens to what's going on in Nigeria,
it's about 2027.
Election is in December.
It's next year.
Yes.
So we'll continue to have it this way as long as we have a principle where winners take all. For instance, if Ashwaju, there were some brilliant ideas that people that I identified during the election. Obi brought forth some brilliant idea. The SDP guy, Adebayo, brought forth some brilliant idea. The YPP guy, Ibrahim something, these were people that I listened to. And I was thinking in my head that there's going to be a roundtable after the election. That this idea that you have propounded, let's see how we're going to work together. So we're going to always have a tense political situation, tense political preparation, as long as it's about me. Once I become the president, yes. Yeah. Once it's about me, once I win, I must do the ideology of my party. And see, you see some of the ideologies, you see some of the things they put forward, and you're like, oh, did your reason go on holiday when you were thinking about all of these things? These are simple strategic solutions that anybody will have solved.
Action group since the 1960s. It's road, car, education, you know, just very basic things.
See, maybe we should close this with this. If you, there's a 21st century ailment now. All these things you see, the economic situation is not limited to Nigeria. It's a 21st century ailment. But if you try to cure it with a 19th century medication, the best you will get is a 20th century healing, which is what we are struggling with. People there are almost outdated. You see, and it's across board. I was citing the example of the Nigerian police the other day. There's nothing wrong about an average policeman. They go out of the country, they perform excellently. But again, if you continue to hold on to 20th century medication, you see a man with dread, and immediately what comes to your head is crime. In 21st century, you see a young boy sagging his trouser out there, and the first thing that comes to your mind is Yahoo boy. I work with a few young people, and I see that these are the people that are looking for a way to express their creativity. And the community is guarding them by the day. And that's what we do with our policy. We gang our policy all the time. There's nothing we didn't make noise. Because if you can think well, you will see the solution. There's nothing we did not say about removal of fuel subsidy. We said that this removal of fuel subsidy must be transparent to the point that an average man on the street must know the landing cost of fuel. But today we keep going backward and forward. Even the president, apologies to him, cannot say with utmost certainty that he knows the landing cost of petrol to today. Right. We are producing fuel. We have said this repeatedly. All other products that came out of it, what are we doing with them? These are some of the questions, and people keep decamping every day. We can offer leadership advice from any camp. Not that you encourage a ruling party that they are doing well by all of you decamping to it.
And at the end of the day, you ask these people who are decamping, what is the basis of decamping?
They are the ones spoiling the nation, no?
You know, because you're assumed, or it's assumed that you're joining a party because your individual political ideology is aligned with the ideology of the party. So if you're leaving this party, see that your ideology has changed or the party's ideology has changed. It just feels that, again,
people are decamping because they want political office.
Yes,
and they are putting serious pressure on the government because the government is confused. Go to all pastors, go to herbalists. You will see the prayer that politicians are taking there is to be appointed, and they're confusing everybody. Instead of you to stay out of power and advise.
On this note,
it's very annoying now.
Even the SNYs
are annoying.
Everybody's tired. Thank you very much, Dotun Ojon, for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Nigeria will win.
Nigeria will be great again.